Welcome to the Stress-Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm joined by Dr. DeAngelo Webster. DeAngelo, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Eric. It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah, this is great. You've got a great story. And I love what you're doing. You're helping a lot of dentists out there become owners and reduce stress. And you've written books, you speak, you got a podcast, you're a practicing dentist. So a lot to get into. But I first would just want to hear about how you even decided to become a dentist.
Sure. So why do I want to be a dentist? That's like blast from the past. So I wanted to be a dentist from the time I was like 12 years old. Most 12-year-olds, they want to be like a fireman, a policeman, an astronaut. I wanted to be a dentist. And I think a big part of that was that my dad was in healthcare, and he would always come home every night at the dinner table and have like an interesting story about a patient that he met that day. And like, when I grew up, I want to come home and have interesting stories about the patients that I met that day. And then I went with him to work one time, and my dad was a PA. So he's a healthcare provider, not in dentistry. He was a physician assistant. And he took me to the hospital with him one day to kind of hang out. I hated it. And I was like, I never want to work in a hospital. This seems like way too much, way too stressful. People are dying. And like, this is off the table for me. But I had a really cool dentist. His name was Dr. James Lee in Ann Arbor. He was like a really cool dentist, and he always seemed relaxed. And his office had this really homey vibe, which I've tried to infuse in my own practice. And I'm like, well, this is what I want to do. This is great. And the entrepreneurship aspect as well is more available as a dentist. Most MDs, medical doctors, healthcare providers, they're working in hospitals. I kind of would have the independence to do my own thing as a dentist. And I decided that when I was 12, and I basically never looked back.
And where'd you go to dental school?
University of Michigan, Ann Arbor.
And then after dental school, did you associate for a while? Did you do a GPR? What happened there?
So I was crazy. I basically did a scratch startup while I was still a dental student. Okay. I did my startup while I was still in dental school. So how does that work, right? So at U of M, we had to decide on a thesis project in order to graduate dental school. So you would decide first or second year what you wanted your project to be. And then you had the rest of your time in school to work on it, and you had to finish it to graduate. So most of the students pick something like how to find MB2, or studying some weird periodontal bacteria, or does arrestin really work? My project was how to own and operate a dental practice. So I had to do the groundwork for all of that in dental school as my project. So by second year, I had like purchased the web domain for my practice, which is White Pine Dental. I had the name decided, I had the logo designed, and I started interviewing practice owners to learn what worked and what didn't, and learning demographics and learning marketing. Started learning everything involved in operating a dental office. Third year, I had pretty much narrowed down where I was going to practice between different cities, and I had pretty much refined the business plan that I was going to use. I determined on the business philosophy that I was going to go with. Fourth year, I locked in exactly where I was going to go. We designed the floor plan for the location. I went to the banks. I got pre-approved for the loan, which as a dental student without a dental license and no official business experience, it's very hard to do. But I did get approved for the loan, pre-approved for the loan as a dental student, and everything was like designed and ready to go. I had my whole team assembled. And then I graduated, And then the process started. So construction did take a while. So I did associate for a little bit after dental school, about a year. And then my doors finally opened and I started my startup practice and we took off and never looked back.
Wow, that is amazing. I don't think I've heard of anyone, that I can remember that actually planned this while they were still in school. Who did you consult with? You said a couple times you said regarding the floor plan or like finding the location
Sure.
or getting the loan. Who did you consult with?
I didn't consult with anybody. So I'll kind of, well, yes and no. And I'll tell you what the we looks like. Okay. So as far as the consulting, I was a broke dental student and didn't have any money. I couldn't use like a formal consultant. I was in dental school. Um, so part of my project was interviewing dentists. So I interviewed 20, 25 dentists in the area and was like, well, what works? What doesn't? What's a good floor plan? What's a good floor plan? What's a bad floor plan? What is really involved in this? Okay. My wife was in dental school too. So she was kind of involved in helping me juggle things and figure things out. The contractor that I worked with was really great because he was willing to meet me eye to eye. I had a really unique deal with him where I didn't have to give him any money until like it was completed. He just kind of went on a handshake with me until then. And I remember like little things, like we didn't even use an architect. He's like, well, I think if we sit down at my kitchen table, we can design a dental office. And we sat down at his kitchen table and we designed a dental office. And he didn't charge me for that. He kind of, I think, was motivated by my motivation. As you can imagine, this was a lot of work to do during dental school, and still, graduate with, excellent grades and knowing what I was doing and being able to do the dentistry and putting this project together. So I actually recruited a team of interns during dental school, Eric. So I held interviews for about 15 to 20 different candidates that were pre-dental students, and I selected 3 of them. And throughout my time in dental school, I had 3 interns, 2 of which are dentists now. And they would help me. Every week we'd have a meeting and I would delegate tasks and I would say, okay, for the project, I need you to cold call these dental offices and see who will let me go interview them. I interviewed these. I need you to transcribe the audio and take notes and give me a summary. I got a big test coming up. I need you to write me some note cards and organize them. So like I had a team of interns working with me in dental school, which were paid in donuts and recommendation letters. And they helped a lot. Justin, Harry, and Jessica. Thank you.
That is unbelievable. Where did you learn these skills to be a leader like that, or even think to recruit interns? And I know you had the
Yeah.
thesis, and you probably learned so much from talking to these dentists.
Yeah. I kind of learned by hitting barriers of lack of knowledge. So I would realize I didn't know something. And then I'd have to kind of put together the pieces. Well, I don't know this. How can I learn it? So in dental school, I was reading a lot. I probably would read like a book a week related to business. And U of M also has a really good business school. So I would crash on like the business school classes. They have like auditorium style seating. So I just go in there and, just soak in information from like marketing classes, business structure, planning classes, and just sit in the back and take notes and try and learn. I would do that a lot too. And then it all kind of just pieced together. And then talking to the dentist that I interviewed for my project, I mean, I can't understate how important that was.
Yeah, to me that was invaluable. I did it, via working associateships and working in different styles of practice, and ultimately I took some of the good and the bad and
Yeah.
molded my own style. So that must have been so invaluable talking to the
Yeah.
dentist.
I feel like with the mentorship aspect that I took, because when I walk in there, I'm like, hey, this is for a school project. It's like an open book. They told me the truth. They told me the real deal. They let me see all the financials. Showed me everything behind the scenes. As an associate, a lot of new grad dentists, they're trying to get mentorship from their employer as an associate because one day they want to be a practice owner. I almost feel like with that, there's like an inherent conflict of interest because at the end of the day, if you're an associate, your employer wants you to stay being the associate. They want to see you do well, but they don't want you to leave and have to hire again and go through the whole thing. And there's certain things that as a business owner behind the scenes, they're not necessarily going to go through and dig through all the ups and downs, going through the books and the paperwork with you if you're employed on the team. But for a school project, they're like, what do you want to know? So I got kind of the unfiltered truth behind the scenes of all these practices. And then I just did my best to put it into action.
That's a great point about being a student and really kind of non-threatening to the
Yeah.
dentist, and they'll be more open.
Yeah.
Um, Now, tell me about you're really helping other dentists out there. Tell me about your book that I had the pleasure of
Oh yeah.
being a contributor. Tell me about your new book.
Sure. So where to put it? Right over here. So this is my book. This is 800 pages of written text. This took me about 2 years to write. And going back to mentorship, I interviewed about 20 dentists, roughly an hour each for this book. So this book is called You Don't Know What You Don't Know, 7 Lessons for a Life in Dentistry. And it's everything that I wish someone told me. Okay. In dental school, I would always have like faculty say, well, you don't know what you don't know. And that would really frustrate me. Like, just tell me what I don't know so that I can do better and not make the same mistakes that everyone else is making. Um, that book debuted #1 on Amazon on new releases on 3 different categories. So it did really well. So anyone who's interested can buy that book on Amazon, or there's a 100% free digital PDF version of it available on practicebiopsy.com. So if you don't want to pay $15 or whatever it is, you can get the free version. It's not an endeavor to make money. It's just an endeavor to really express my interest in writing. I really, truly love to read and write. So I was going to write that book either way. So there it is. And I hope it helps contribute to the collective intelligence of the dental community and push things forward in some way.
And you mentioned you can also find it on Practice Biopsy. Tell me about Practice Biopsy.
Sure. So practicebiopsy.com, that's like my website hub for the work I do with Practice Biopsy. So our goal there is basically, our big core goal is to help employee dentists become owner dentists. And we do offer training for that. We have a philosophy built around self-improvement and starting with ourselves. So we believe that accomplishing things and building our practice starts with improving ourselves and different aspects of ourselves and our own character and our personal lives. And it leads to success in other areas. We also incorporate Japanese principles such as Kaizen and Ikigai, and we build up our dental philosophy from that. So Kaizen is all about lean efficiency. Okay, it means removing the things that are not valuable, focusing on the things that really are valuable. It means that you are incrementally getting a little bit better intentionally every day. Not big grand changes. Start small, go from where you are, and grow and improve a little bit every day. And then it compounds, like the stock market. It compounds over time. And then your career, your life, whatever area of success you're hoping for is going to be all the better. It was a philosophy that was originally incorporated in the business world with auto companies. So Toyota is really famous for it. There's a book called The Toyota Way to Excellence. But it's a principle that has many applications, and it just means decide what's important to you and focus on getting a little bit better each day. And a lot of that incorporates around removing the things that are adding stress to your life, removing the things that are not important to you, removing the distractions. And then you end up with a lot less stress and a lot more ability to focus on things.
Now, where are you finding that dentists are, making mistakes or getting stuck, or they're not being efficient, or working with certain systems or things that aren't creating value? Like, what are you seeing out there that is a common trend?
Oh man. Well, there's 2 sides of that. There's like the personal side and the practice side. With the practice side, there's just a lot of excess. So I'll often see dentists who will buy a practice and they say, well, I want to buy a practice so that I make more money and have more free time for my family. And they buy a practice and they make the same or less money a lot of the times, at least at first. And they've got way less time for their families and they're just more stressed out. And like, well, why the heck did I do this? And it goes kind of to the principles in the book, like you don't know what you don't know. A lot of dentists go in blind. Okay. So either they don't use a consultant, they don't use a training, or they don't take the time to learn everything on their own first. They just jump in and they grasp onto the people who are talking loudly, which is usually the vendors and the suppliers and the equipment dealers, Henry Schein, Patterson, Benko, or people who want a ton of money from you to, help you do this. And really, it's more serving them than serving the dentist. And now the dentist is stressed out. Maybe they're listening to a broker who's getting paid 10% of the sale price, for their primary advisor. I'm like, well, they have a vested interest. They're going to get 10%. They're going to want you to buy the more expensive one, you know? So I try and say, hey, clear out all the noise, figure out what you really want. Are there loud voices? You need to be a super dentist. You need to do implants. You need to do ortho. You need to do TMJ. You need to add a new skill set to your repertoire every single year. Otherwise, you're not a good dentist. Well, that's super stressful. And it's also not true. Some of the best dentists just do them simple things really, really well. Okay. I do what I call dental school dentistry. I don't do any procedures that I didn't do in dental school. Dental school taught me all the procedures that I currently do. Could I do implants? Yes. Could I do molar endo? Could I do ortho? I could, but I don't want to. And I'm confident in saying that, where a lot of dentists get really like agitated. Like, no, it's fine. Decide what you want. If you want to do implants and ortho, do it. If you don't want to, then don't. The branding of our practice is that we're the office where we're really nice to people. So instead of investing on how do I do a new, implant CD, I say, how do I invest in our practice so that when people walk through the door, they had a better experience and felt like we were really nice to them? And that's what we actually build things around. I don't do difficult dental work. If I have a crown prep, a single unit crown prep, and I think it looks hard, I'm going to send it to my prosthodontist. I don't do anything hard during my workday.
I think that's a major factor in one of the ways that I was able to overcome burnout was being able to look at my schedule and knowing that I'm comfortable with that schedule for the next day or the next week. There's nothing in there that is going to stress me out too much. I try to stay within my comfort zone and refer cases out that I don't feel comfortable doing. And to me, that has been such a game changer. And patients appreciate it. I tell them, look, I want to get you in the best hands, so I'm going to refer you to a colleague that that specializes in this. And I reversely found that when I got into cases or procedures, or even just the personality of the patient that was out of my comfort zone, that's when I really got stressed out.
Yep. I found that the more I started referring, the more money that I made and the less stress I had. I remember something you said to me when I interviewed you that stuck with me. It's like, if you see that patient's name on the schedule and you see them like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing Miss So-and-so tomorrow, you got to make a change. You shouldn't feel that way. And that stuck with me. So if I think that, I make a change. Either it's not the right fit for our practice, or we do refer the case, or we let them know that, hey, this maybe is not the right practice.
Can you say that again? You said you feel that by doing less, you're making more money. Is that what you said?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So the more that I refer out, the better we do financially. I like to focus on routine, regimen, simple, predictable. What is going to go smoothly in my hand? You get stress, you get complications, you get subpar clinical results, and you're losing out on money because you're wasting time and having post-op problems and issues when you're doing things that are not going to go smoothly in your hands. So I'm good at identifying what case is going to go smoothly in my hands. And we all want to stretch our skill sets and push a little bit. And that's fine too. But if you're stretching your skill set, stretch it maybe like 5% and see how it goes. And stretch another 5% and see how it goes. Don't stretch your skill set 50% and get in over your head and have to call your specialist with the patient in the chair and say, what do I do? Terrible approach. But yeah, anything that I look at, and we've all been there as dentists, like the patient comes in, they're like, this hurts. And like, well, it's kind of testing like this to percussion. And maybe I see something on the radiograph here. Let's get in and find out. I don't get in and find out. If I don't know, I don't do it. And then if I had a doctor working on me and they didn't know, I wouldn't want them to do it either. So if I don't know, I don't guess. I just refer it to someone who's going to know. So I think that's better for the health interest of my patient. And then I can do something that I know and serve someone else better.
Oh man, that's great stuff. I totally agree. I feel like there's with me personally, there's a duality in dentistry. There's the clinical side. And, I do like to add new treatments and techniques and technology, but I do it at a pace that I'm comfortable with and that I'm not overwhelming my staff with. And that's the clinical side. But then there's the business side and a little bit quicker. And if something, doesn't work out or fails, then I'll pivot and change. Whereas you can't do that with the clinical side.
Yeah.
But for the business side, if there's a software, I'll try it, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'll move on, or a marketing strategy, that type of thing. But when you're working on someone's mouth and their tooth, you got to be
Yeah,
really,
that's their health.
yeah. Um, Great stuff, man. This has been, great nuggets for the dentists out there. Let's wrap up with two final questions.
Sure.
Number one is, how do we find out more about what you're up to? And then the final question is, what advice would you give to the young dentists out there?
Sure. How to find out more, go to practicebiopsy.com. That's the hub for everything. So practicebiopsy.com, you're going to find links to my books. You're going to find links to any CE classes that we have, ownership training. You're going to find, you'll be able to sign up for the Practice Biopsy newsletter, which is journal entries that I submit and I write on a weekly basis. You'll be able to read those. That's a great resource. You'll also have a link to the private Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group also called Practice Biopsy, which has 5,000 dentists and dental students only. So it's a safe space for dentists to have conversations. Okay. As far as what I would tell younger dentists, start with taking care of yourself. That means your mental health and your physical health. Okay. So if your energy level is not where it needs to be, you're not physically healthy, if your mind's not clear, you're not going to be able to make the best decisions. Okay. And it all comes from making good decisions and deciding what is important to me. What do I value? What game am I playing? Not Dr. So-and-so or Dr. So-and-so or Dr. So-and-so on social media, but what is important to me? What makes me feel good? What brings balance and happiness to my life as a person? Because a dentist is just one aspect of the people that we all are. And if it becomes the whole aspect of what you are, then if dentistry is ever not going well, then all of a sudden things aren't going well for you internally. So start with taking care of yourself, your mind, your body, your energy. Make sure that that's all squared away first. Diet, exercise, sleep patterns, super important to me. I would say start with that and then go from there, and then look for people who align with what you want and talk to them.
That's great stuff. DeAngelo Webster, such a great episode. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Eric. It's a pleasure as always.
Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.